Before we get into it, this podcast is now proudly sponsored by PrizePot, which is a Yorkshire-based competitive website. They're run by two Leeds fans, and they're currently giving the chance to win a signed Lucas Radebe top from the 01-02 season for just 199. If you want to enter, go on to the PrizePot website where you can enter, and yeah, go and give them some support as well on all their socials. Right, let's crack into it. Swifty. Hello and welcome. I'm Michael, as always. I'm joined by one and only Craig. How we doing, mate?
I'm doing all good. Boring for international break, but hopefully this will cheer me up.
Yep, we're joined by two special guests today. We're joined by one, Swifty. How we doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on, mate. Something to cheer me up and pass some time with this international break. So getting sick of them, mate. But other than that, I'm all good.
That's right. I thought we'd get Liam Cooper from Timu on. And Dan, how we doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thanks for having me on. Just looking forward to getting the proper football back, honestly. It's too many, and they're at this stage of the season.
Yeah,
What's that, three international breaks already?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I hate international breaks, as I've said so many times. But since you two are new, Swifty, I'll go to you first. How would you rate our season so far? Like as a whole, good, bad bits. Let's hear your thoughts, mate.
Well, I think we're going all right, and I've seen a lot of Leeds fans speaking negatively about Farke's style and saying we're boring to watch, and it's dropped the atmosphere down. But I honestly I don't see it as that much of a negative. I think this style of football will get us promoted. I do think we are the best team in the league, and I do think we'll go on to win the title. So I think this way Farke's playing will work. I can half understand what people are saying, but I think we're probably spoiled by Bielsa ball, won't we? And people have kind of forgotten. And I think we almost take that for granted how exciting the football was then. My only worry is with the way Farke plays is if we do get promoted into the Premier League, that less exciting style of play coupled with getting beat a lot. Because let's be honest, when you go up, you do lose a lot of football matches. So that might not be the best combination ever.
No, I agree with you, but at the same time, if he's backed, if he gets the backing that he needs, and to be fair, his style of football, we've seen it when teams come at us, it suits us better. We attack better when we're behind the ball and off the ball. We close teams down further up the pitch, whereas when we've got the ball, it is a lot of sideways possession-based ball, which, let's be honest, in the Prem, you're not going to get that. Not when you've just been promoted. Look at Southampton right now. They had a majority of the ball in the Championship, and they ain't doing it in the Prem. So it could work for us, mate.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I just think as well we've been so unlucky with injuries. I think Ramazani, out of all the injuries we've had, has been the most disappointing one of the lot. I think he's just starting to warm into the Championship, looks to be settled in, and he speeds up play, which is what we lack at times.
Yeah.
I really think that's what we do lack. So I was gutted when Ramazani got injured. But one thing I do think is if Gruev and Ampadu hadn't got injured, it could have been even worse, in terms of Rothwell and Tanaka. They advanced the ball much quicker than those two and are looking to attack a little bit more. So it could be even less aesthetically pleasing on the eye. But all in all, I think we dropped points in a lot of games. Portsmouth springs to mind, Sunderland for obvious reasons. Even Burnley, we should have got at least a point, really. There's too many to mention. So we could be in a lot better spot. And I just think across a long championship season, it will balance itself out. And the best team in the league will be at the top of the table. And for me, that's Leeds United.
Yeah, and we're better at set pieces as well with Rothwell over Gruev. But that's a story for another time. I personally do believe that Gruev. Yes, Swifty?
Just on that, it blows my mind that we've got a squad full of professional footballers and none of them can take a corner. I'm sorry. The amount of times I see the first man not being beaten, it's like, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, amateur stuff. Dan, let's hear your thoughts, mate. How have you got the season so far?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of what Swifty was saying about people complaining about the style of football. However, we have to remember what this league's about, and it's about getting out of it. And based on, points and the way we have put games to bed at times and also not done this season, I don't think it's been a bad start at all. What are we, a third of the way through the season? And I think it's clear to see there isn't a Leicester or an Ipswich this year.
No.
I mean, really, you're looking at Sunderland and Sheffield United as your main two rivals, aren't you? We put Sheffield United to the sword at home and should have done the same, obviously, at Sunderland. However, like last year, we did the double over both of those sides and then dropped points in other silly games, which, as you've said, Swifty, we've already seen them do that this year, so that would be my concern. And on Farker, as I say, I don't really care how we play this year. It's just about getting out of the league. We've got to do it. We've got to do it now, really. But yeah, the question would be, is he the man long term, as in Premier League?
Problem is that how long do you give him in the Prem? I know it's all premature thinking about it now, but is he a long term?
Yeah, and I think the difference is we often struggle to break teams down that sit deep as well. And you're not going to get that in the Premier League. You know, we're more effective against better sides, especially at home. Sides that come out and attack us. You've got players like Nonto and James. They want to be getting in behind fullbacks, don't they? So you're looking at like that Plymouth game. You know, he had no plan B really whatsoever. But the first 25 minutes, they defended pretty resolutely, and you're thinking we need a goal here to bring them out. As it was, we got two in the space of 5 minutes, and they still didn't come out. But by then, it doesn't matter, does it? Because you put the game to bed, and we're forced to shots from distance, crossing balls in, and we all know how that's gone for us if you look at the corner stats for the last couple of years. So yeah, you don't get that in the Premier League. So it's all speculation at the minute, isn't it? It's difficult to see, and you can't compare it to what he did at Norwich because he wasn't financially back there.
No, I mean I've spoken about this last year when he first came in. That given the backing, you got to give time. You can't just keep swapping and changing managers because for me, I think we've got the players that suit his style in terms of when we've got the ball, we're good at holding the ball, and when we've lost the ball, we close it down. Whether or not it's James, Joseph, Pirro to an extent, obviously not as much as what Joseph and Bamford does do, but you've got other players, Solomon, Joseph, I've already said Joseph, Ramazani that close the ball down higher up the pitch, and then they turn over the ball, and bam, we shot on target, or we've at least had a shot.
And also, while there are areas where we're still a little bit thin on the ground, I would say the squad looks better this year. I mean, when we lost Ampadu and Gruev within 45 minutes of one another, you're thinking we're in the shit here. Like what's this next 3 or 4 months going to look like without these players? And then in comes Tanaka and Rothwell, and I don't think it's not been to our detriment at all, has it? So that says a lot about the quality of the squad. We lose Ramazani, big loss. But there are other players that can come in and fill those shoes. And no doubt if one of those players gets injured in the next month or two, Ramazani will slide back in. And that's where you need that depth, which is one thing that we did lack under Bielsa. There was 1 or 2 seasons where injuries really did derail us, didn't they?
Yeah, no, it does. Obviously, I know that if we are lacking on the defensive end, obviously with Bogle, Firpo just been suspended, Byram came in, did a decent job. It's these centre backs that are a little bit of a worry. Obviously, Ampadu looks ahead of schedule, but there is a question. I'll do it to all three of you, myself included. Does he get back into this team straight away? If so, who's he come in place of? Swifty, I'll come to you first, mate.
I don't. I think if we're winning games and we look good and Rothwell and Tanaka are playing like they have, he don't come straight back in. I don't think you can. I don't think you change a winning team that's playing well and people are putting in good performances. I don't think that sets a good precedent if you did that. Having said that, I don't think it'll take him long to work his way back in. I just think it'll naturally happen in terms of resting people or somebody, might have a bad game or whatever it does. I think when Ethan Ampadu gets his chance, he'll probably take it. But that for me don't mean he comes straight back in.
No. Craig, what about you, mate? We haven't heard from you yet. Obviously, you're on here week in, week out anyway. So, does he come back into the squad or not?
Oh, he'll be back in the squad. I don't think he'll be first team start. I don't think he'll be first team squad though. Straight away, he'll take, and he's come back from a bad injury, so he'll give him time so that he don't get injured again. very shortly after. So I think, like Swifty said, he'll work his way back in when he gets his chance. He'll get back in, but I don't think he'll rush him in.
Fair enough. Dan, what about you, mate?
I agree. Yeah, when he does come back in, he will be phased in. So Rothwell and Tanaka can rest assured they're still going to get plenty more minutes. If I had to if I had to say out of the two, it's not going to be Tanaka, is it?
No,
But
it's not.
Rothwell's been brilliant as well. But yeah, as Swifty said, you do not change a winning team, and I believe we'll be relatively as consistent as we've been in the first third, in the second third. And I mean, when's he due back? Sort of January time. By then,
Apparently he's ahead of schedule, so he could be back before then. But if he does, obviously it's Christmas period anyway, so games are going to be coming thick and fast. We're going to be playing weekend, weekday. Obviously, beyond Christmas period, like we literally play like 20 times in the space of 10 days. Okay, it's not an exaggeration, but
you touched on it earlier, Mike, as well.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Dan. Yeah, you touched on it earlier as well, Mike. We're so light at centre half, so do you know what I mean? Who knows what's going to happen? Touch wood that Striker Road and stay fit, but he's gonna be an option at centre half, isn't he, as well? If you look at our squad, that's probably where we're finished. So, and as much as I prefer him in midfield, he's solid and more than capable of playing centre half. So you might see him in the starting 11 at centre back.
yeah, I mean, even some games we could go to a back three, back five, including the fullbacks, wing backs. But it's a championship, you don't really tend to see a back five. But I suppose depending on who we're playing against, it could work in our favour because I've spoken about our transitional play anyway, that we tend to be playing a 2/3 at the back anyway. So it could potentially work, but then who comes out higher up the pitch? It's a good problem to have, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Definitely a good problem to have.
We'll leave that there then, and we'll move on to some start, bench, and sell. So this will be old players, and then we'll do some Leeds players as well. So first off, we'll start with Buffon, Khan, and Casilla. Swifty, I'll head to you first, mate.
Just let me just be super clear, right? Is this Iker Casillas of Real Madrid or Kiko Casilla of Leeds United?
I spelt that wrong when I sent it to you, mate.
I'm just checking because then we've got an obvious sell. That's all, lads. That's all I'm saying.
It's not Kiko.
Yeah, so I'd start Buffon. I think that longevity is a joke. What was it? 28 years, I think he played for, which is like, I'm 29. So that just when you put it into that sort of context, to play at that level for that long is a joke. I know keepers last a little bit longer. Obviously, won the World Cup in 2006, won many a Serie A. And I think just over 1,000 appearances at that level. I'd start Buffon. I'd bench Casillas. He's got to feel hard done by 3 Champions Leagues as well as a couple of Euros and a World Cup. I think he probably did his best work in a Spain shirt, to be fair.
Yeah.
Had decent longevity himself. I think, did he have a heart attack when he was at Porto? And that, look, thankfully he's all right now, but I think that cut his career a little bit shorter than he'd like. And then Oliver Kahn, I mean, how's he found himself sold on the transfer list? What a keeper he was. He's obviously unfortunate to miss out because I think I'd probably only have 2 other keepers other than these 2 above him all time in probably Lev Yashin and who else was my one? Manuel Neuer. So yeah, that's my 3, mate.
Craig, what about you, mate?
I've got my same thing. I mean, Buffon's just undeniably one of the best keepers ever. I think so, and Casilla as well. Unfortunately, he didn't have as decorated career, I suppose, or longer career than Buffon, but he was up there. And Khan, I always liked Khan as well. I thought, in his time, he was probably one of the best keepers around, but the other 2 for me just edge him out. So yeah, Buffon start, bench Casilla, sell Khan.
Dan?
First of all, the best thing about Oliver Kahn was his temperament. He was an absolute nutter. You remember when Jens Lehmann first come about? I felt like he was trying his hardest to be a Kahn regen, just rushing out and doing daft things here and there. And he had that in the locker. But they do say you've got to be mad to be a goalkeeper. But yeah, echoing what you guys said, the other 2 obviously well decorated. It's got to be Buffon, Casillas on the bench, and Kahn sold, unfortunately. But yeah, tough one. Good first question, that.
I'm going to change it. Start Buffon, bench Khan, sell Casilla, only because I can't stand him. Only played for Real Madrid. That's basically the only reason why. And I
You're
just
thinking back to
love
that.
About
watching
Casilla.
Khan. I love watching
You're thinking
Khan
back to that
play. He's just
2002 World Cup, aren't you? Where he won the Golden Ball and Brazil beat him.
yeah. Right. Right backs. Lam, Alves, and Cafu. Swifty, start us off again, mate.
Wow. You're testing us here, my pal. You're massively testing us. I don't want to sell any of these boys. I think you've got to start Cafu. I think has he still made the most appearances for Brazil? He's another one with absolutely ridiculous longevity. I think he's played like 140 plus games for Brazil.
Think so, yeah.
And he's kind of like before his time a little bit, Cafu. One, he's like now the modern game, fullbacks are just bombing on, attacking. They're like extra wingers. They don't, half of them can't even defend. And I'm not saying Cafu couldn't defend because I think he probably could.
He could.
You don't play in sides that he did without being able to defend, especially in that era. But yeah, it was almost before his time. So I'd say start Cafu. I'd bench Lam. I think my reasoning for Lam is he probably wasn't the quickest, the strongest, the biggest, but just the way he read the game, he didn't need to be. He could be up against a winger or a striker who had a little bit more pace, a little bit more strength, and he just read the game, and that was his strength. So yeah, I'd bench him, and unfortunately, I'd sell Alves. Alves was obviously top class, played in one of the greatest sides we've ever seen in that Pep Guardiola's Barcelona.
Craig, what about you, mate?
Exactly the same. It's a tough one, but Cafu, like you said, ahead of his time, he were. I think a lot of right wing backs probably model the game on how Cafu played because he started it all with that bombing down the wing, attacking right back. I think he attacked more than he defended, to be honest. But he was superb. And like you say, Lam, he was in a long line of defenders in that Germany era where defenders were like they were all premium. They were like class, and he could play right or left. And like you say, he read the game well, really good, solid defender. And so yeah, start Cafu, bench Lam, and Alves. Sorry, but you're going.
Dan, what about you, mate?
Yeah, Cafu. I think if you ask any real top quality players of that era, they'd probably tell you Cafu was the best right back they'd encountered, certainly of that era. Lam, I would bench, quality player, very versatile as well. I feel like he can come into that holding role as well as playing along the back four. And yeah, Alves, not least for his questionable actions off the field. But I will say he is, or I believe has Messi recently overtaken him. He's supposed to be the most decorated player of all time. But I
He
believe
was,
Messi
and
might have
yeah,
recently just overtaken him. Yeah.
only just.
You can't take that away from him. But
You can't
yeah,
put that down to the right back though, Dan. Come on, he played in some good sides.
He still
No,
did
this is it,
decent
yeah.
though. Even before he went to Barcelona, he was still decent.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then, if you're playing so consistently in such good a side, then that must say a lot about you. Because
Absolutely.
realistically, they could have had the best any other player, couldn't they? In that position.
Absolutely. I'm being disrespectful to fullbacks there. That's where we usually stick the worst player on a Saturday.
Yeah, I started off as a right back.
So you're selling Alves, are you?
Yeah, 100%, mate.
I'm going to go
Starting
against all of you again. I'm going to
Again,
bench Alves. I'm going to sell Lam. As much as I love all three of them, obviously Cafu starts his hands down the easiest one. Alves bench, Lam sell. And obviously on the Barcelona pick, this is probably going to be the hardest one. Busquets, Iniesta, or Xavi. Swifty, we'll go to you again, mate.
Yeah, one of them, mate. It's gonna be like this a lot in it. You don't want to sell any of these boys, but I'd probably start Iniesta. I think Iniesta's prime quality for me was like, obviously a lot of other players have had a similar trait, but it's like he had 360-degree vision. He could see every bit of the park at all times, which is like he might as well have had wing mirrors. He could see just everything what was happening. I think he's an unbelievable player and obviously absolutely instrumental in that team that I mentioned earlier, one of the best football sides you've ever seen, that Pep Guardiola Barca team. It's almost a difficult one, this, because they're a bit of a double act, Xavi and Iniesta, aren't they? they go hand in hand. You don't really mention one without the other. So Xavi's very close behind him on the bench. He just dictating the tempo of games, didn't he? You felt like absolutely everything went through Xavi. If something happened, it went through Xavi. And then Busquets is unlucky to be sold. One of the best to ever play in that role for me. And probably, as much as people do rate him, I still think he's massively underrated, as are a lot of players who play in that holding central midfield role. It's not sexy, is it? It's not as eye-catching as other positions on the pitch. And they just don't seem to get the flowers. So, yeah, Busquets, top player, but he's been hard. He's up against a tough crowd there.
It is a tough one. Craig, what about you, mate?
I'm gonna go a different way on this because the way that I see it is Iniesta starts is by far the undeniable. Like his quality is amazing, but like you said, a double act with him and Xavi. I think that without Iniesta, Xavi doesn't look as good. It's Iniesta, I think, that made Xavi look that good, and I would bench Busquets because I just can't put him in front of Iniesta. But Busquets, one of the best players to play in that central midfield role, never lost the ball, and that's where Iniesta gets his ball from and moves it on. So unfortunately, as much as I'd have to say, I'd sell Xavi.
Dan, what about you, mate?
Very difficult. All three of them absolutely instrumental to that Barca team. I mean, look at the quality of sides that they've faced at the highest level in the Champions League, and they made so many of them look ordinary. And that was down to those three in the middle of the park, winning games literally in the middle of the park. With Iniesta and Xavi, I do just edge it Iniesta, but it's almost a toss of a coin, isn't it? They both complemented each other. And as Swifty said with Iniesta, it's that sort of 360 vision, that awareness of what's going on around him. You can stick 3-4 players on him and you still believe he'll come away with the ball. Xavi, similar qualities. But yeah, I'm going to edge it Iniesta. And then, as you say, yeah, Busquets has been hard done by. But it depends what perspective you look at it, doesn't it? If you want an out-and-out holding midfielder, then look no further than Busquets. I think Rodri, probably a lot of people compare Rodri to him. I still don't think Rodri's even reached that level, to be honest. And as you say, Swifty, yeah, it's not sexy, but that's why I'm so pleased that Rodri has won the Ballon d'Or, because I don't believe there was anyone more deserving, regardless of what people say, to be honest. For once, I think a player's just been recognised for his contribution and his ability, regardless of where he plays on the pitch. But yeah, I think Busquets was at even higher height than Rodri, so that's a big compliment.
It's a tough one. I'm trying to base on because I used to watch that team week in, week out. So I'm kind of doing this on my favourite players, not just ability wise. So I'm going to go completely against all of you. I'm going to start Busquets just because that holding midfield, what he could do. Craig, yes, I know you're a little bit shocked to that.
Yeah,
To be fair, I preferred Xavi over Iniesta, especially at the start of it. Near the end of it, Iniesta showed more than what Xavi did, but near the beginning of it, Xavi for me stood out more than what Iniesta did. It was like obviously the Euros, the World Cup when he got the goal and stuff. So for me, I'm going to bench Xavi and sell Iniesta, as controversial as that is.
Problem with that, Mike, is they're a duo, mate. They're a double act. If you're selling Iniesta, Xavi's going to go with him, mate. You've lost two there.
It doesn't matter, mate. That's what I'm going to do right now.
Nice.
And before we get on to some Leeds players, we will do this last one. Shevchenko, Totti, Batistuta, Swifty, just to put in some pure filth there.
But this is the one where I'm not thanking you for going first, because this is a proper head scratcher for me. This one.
Whole career as well, or just private? It's entirely up to you how you do
Yeah,
this.
so I do usually go whole career on these types of things, because I do think like your longevity and your full career does play a big part of it. Shevchenko, I think he scored nearly 400 goals. He was unbelievable in that AC Milan side, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of fell off a little bit at Chelsea to a certain extent, but only because he was so good at AC Milan. But having said that, Chelsea is a bit of a striker's graveyard, isn't it? So it happens. So I'd start Shevchenko, I think. Totti, think he scored over 300 goals, and he was mainly a number 10, wasn't he? But then he reinvented himself loads of times as a false nine. Then he became a striker. But I don't think there's been many more influential players than Francesco Totti, to be honest. And I massively rate being a one club man like that. I've got a lot of time for that. So I'm going to have to sell Batistuta, and I absolutely love Gabriel Batistuta. Batty goal. I mean, I don't know if you've seen his international goal scoring record for Argentina. He scored something like, it was like 50 odd goals in 70 odd games for Argentina. It's like, what a return that is. It's disgusting. Yeah. And I think he got injuries towards the end of his career, didn't he? Which kind of tempered his career a little bit. And what a Barnet that was, by the way, as well, back in the day. Yeah. That's some Barnet on him. I don't know if you get points for that in something like this. Whether you
it's entirely up to you how you look at it, mate. To be fair, Toy had a decent air on him as well. But yeah, Craig, what about you, mate?
Oh, I mean, I look at players on not longevity. To me, is if you're consistently good at being, you can't just have a long career and not be consistent at that top level. I look at players based on how good a player you are. Like if you were consistently a good player, if you've had a short career or a long career, because that short career could have lasted longer if it weren't for certain injuries. And for me, Batistuta, natural, is one of the best goal scorers that's ever been around. Just natural goal scorer, and the goals that he scored, all fantastic goals. And like you say, one club man, he were at Fiorentina for a long time, even when they needed to sell and they wanted to, they were trying to get rid of, but he wanted to stay at Fiorentina. He didn't care. He only left towards the end of that career, I think, for other reasons. It's not that he wanted to leave. But yeah, Batistuta is one of my favourites. He's starting. I'm benching Totti just because I don't want to put him in front of Batistuta. I like Batistuta better. Totti is an amazing player. And like I say, his longevity, he one club man, and just he was the main person there. Shevchenko, he burst onto the scene, did it for a bit, but I think, yeah, that move to Chelsea I think his career just started to nosedive from there on.
That's fair. Dan, what about you, mate?
Yeah, definitely selling Shevchenko, which, I mean, it sounds harsh. If you asked Italians who watched him week in, week out in Serie A, they'd probably go the other way. But mind you, you've got Batistuta and Totti as well. I mean, yeah, it's difficult. He was so good at AC Milan. Obviously, I was quite young at the time, but I used to love watching him in the Champions League, and then kind of tainted by that stint at Chelsea, unfortunately. For English folk who watch the Premier League week in, week out, we had such high expectations. I think sometimes that carries a little bit too much weight, doesn't it? The other two, again, it's really a toss of a coin. Batistuta averaged, I think, more than a goal every other game. And 9 years, I've got it here, 9 years at Fiorentina, 269 appearances, 168 goals, absolutely incredible. However, he was a striker, and as you say, Totti, more of a 10. Again, like the compilations of Totti's goals, chip after chip after chip, audacious attempts, just, yeah, an absolute joy to watch. I honestly don't know. If let's base it on this Leeds United side now, I'd rather have Totti in there and that.
So you're starting Totti?
What, the
That's the easiest way for me to do it.
No, that's fine, mate.
More of Aronson. Oh, as well, yeah.
Right, for me, it's as simple as this. My favourite player, one that probably got me into Italian football, obviously Goal Lazio on Channel 5, I believe it was. Batistuta starts. Totti bench, and I'm selling Shevchenko. It is as easy as that for me. That's probably the easiest one for me.
That's how easy it was for me. But I mean,
2004 Ballon d'Or.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, mate. Stop coming up with your stats. I'm the stat man on this programme, not you.
Sorry,
a few years ago, though, I was watching a charity match with one of them where all the players are come back and they're Batistuta and R9. I mean, that you never ever in the primes, you'd have loved to have seen that duo up front. Like, it'd have been devastating. And they were playing in a charity game, and they just blitzed it. It was just them two basically against the other team. I think they got about three or four goals between them. So it was brilliant to watch them. I wish I could have seen them both together in the prime, though. at the same time.
Yeah. Right, let's move it swiftly on then. Meslier, Martin, Robinson. What are we going to go for, Swifty? Let's do these
Well,
quick fire ones now.
yeah,
So
yeah.
quick fire.
Right.
I'm starting Nigel Martin because he's my favourite goalkeeper of all time. I played cricket with him once as well. Lovely bloke. Just totally starstruck. Having a beer afterwards. Um, Paul Robinson on the bench because he was top level, one of England's number one for a period of time. And then I'm selling Meslier because he's just. I don't hate Meslier. I'm a Meslier fan, but he's nowhere near them two boys.
Craig?
Well, I'm going to start Martin. I'm benching Medley, and I'm selling Robinson just because I met him on an aeroplane in the truck. He don't give a shit about Leeds. So
No, he doesn't.
So that's why I'm selling him. It can go for me.
Dan, what about you, mate?
Nigel Martin starts, Paul Robinson on the bench, Meslier is sold. He's got a long way to go before he gets anywhere near those two lads for me.
Yeah, I agree with both you, Dan and Swifty, for a change. Right, let's go for this one. Cradle, Signs, and Harrison. Swifty, what are we going for, mate?
Did you say Saiz then?
Yeah.
So he
Saeed.
meant to say Saeed, yeah.
Gradle, Saiz, Harrison. So I'm gonna start Saiz because I just loved him. I just loved him. He's my sort of player. Them little tricky, creative midfielders who occupy the middle of the pitch. That little hole in behind. I just love that sort of player. So he's my style of player. I'm going to bench Max Gradle because I absolutely loved him as well, and I was absolutely mortified when he left. And I'm going to sell Harrison just because the way he left. I don't really. I just think he's just spoiled. He tarnished that beam of that Bielsa generation, and it just, yeah, I didn't like that.
Saeed's left it the same way though, kinda.
Yeah, but I think he had some. His missus had some health problems and stuff. Didn't he? And he wanted to go back to Spain, so you can half understand that.
Well, yeah, yeah, I suppose. Well, for me, I'm starting Gradle. I'm benching Saeed and Harrison. I'll sell.
Dan?
I think we're all going to go different here. I'm starting Saiz because after years of mediocrity, he was an absolute breath of fresh air. He really was. I don't know what happened. It was so exciting when he first come onto the scene. You thought this lad's got a high ceiling. He's a flipping cheat code at this level. And then he just sort of faded away very quickly, didn't it? And then who else have we got? Gradle.
Harrison.
I'm selling because he nearly cost us promotion. Harrison, yeah, don't like the way he left or the club that he left for, but he was a good contributor to the club in some important years for us.
Having Harrison on the bench, yeah?
Yeah.
No, I agree completely with you, Dan, on that one. It was a toss-up. Like, if you go based on footballing ability, yeah, Harrison's still second. Like, his first touch, probably one of the best I've ever seen for Leeds.
Yeah.
But yeah, still benching him. Right. James, Nonto, or Rafinha? Swifty?
You got to start Rafinha. He's arguably the best player in the world right now, especially on form. And then I'm benching Nonto and selling Dan James on the basis that Dan James probably before he got injured had a better season this season than Nonto. But I think Nonto's obviously he's a lot younger. His ceiling's far higher than Dan James. I'm not 100% convinced Dan James is a Premier League player or at that level. He seems to have found his level at the Championship. Whereas I don't know how good Nonto could be yet. I think he could go a lot higher.
Craig?
Rafinha, 100%. You can't deny that's got to be a starter. Like you said, best player in the world at the minute, I think. But I'm benching James and selling Nonto because I think James. I just love pace. You need pace in your team, and I don't think Nonto it goes missing sometimes. A lot for me personally. It goes missing in games, and James is always dangerous. So that's where I'm going.
Completely agree with Craig. Yeah, you can't not start Rafinha. Even as good as he was for us, there were times that used to frustrate me where he'd even have games where he'd go missing, and maybe again that's the weight of expectation that you put on the shoulders of these players after seeing them have a couple of good games for us, But yeah, he had so much in the locker. You never knew what was coming next, and I mean, look what he's doing now. So there's no debate there for me. Dan James over Nonto for me, though, all day long. Like right now, if they're both fit, I'd start and after bench one, I'm benching them. So I just feel like James is more consistent, but as Swifty said, at this level. Then I feel like if teams double up on Nonto, he goes missing all the time.
Yeah.
He's a quality player on his day, whereas James, I think at this level, you get six to 7 out of 10 every week. To be fair, there aren't many games where I look and go, James was crap today. 9 times out of 10, most of what we do goes through him, or I feel.
He's definitely one of our most improved players from like when he first joined. Like he's got that end product now. His decision making is so much better, whether or not he's crossing, passing, or shooting. Whereas in the past, you'd take that extra step and you'd go missing. So yeah, I'm going to bench James, sell Nonto, clear starting Rafinha. I'm not even going to joke around about that. Last one before we end this, going to quick fire. Click Phillips or Pablo based on their time at Leeds only. Swifty, what we're going to go for, mate?
Sell Phillips. Why did you stop it? We were carrying on.
Yeah, so I'd definitely start Pablo Hernandez. I just love Pablo Hernandez. And I bench Calvin Phillips. And I'd have to sell Click as heartbreaking as that is. Got a lot of time for Click, but he's up against a tough one again there.
Yeah, I'm with Pablo starting. Click bench and Phillips I'll sell. Only because I feel that his only time as a top level footballer were under Bielsa. Before that, he weren't at that level. And after that, he's never reached that height again.
Yeah,
Dan, sorry if there was any technical issues, then that was my fault. So Dan,
yeah, I'd start Pablo. He was an absolute magician. We all know that. I don't think you'll find a Leeds fan that doesn't love Pablo Hernandez. He could make things happen when we needed it most. Phillips was absolutely brilliant for us under Bielsa. When he first used to come on under the likes of Gary Monk, he was a young player. I used to go, "What is he coming on?" Me and my old man would be stood in the North Stand going, "What are they bringing him on for?" I thought he was an absolute donkey. But what he really needed was some good mentorship, and he had that. He was trained as a centre half, wasn't he, throughout pre-season, and then pushed into that holding role. And I mean, wow, and his passing range as well. It's quite sad to see. Some fans get off on it, I don't. I think it's really sad to see what's going on with his career. Now, I get it, it's not for the money, and it's hard to take. But at the end of the day, you can't wish that on the lad. He is Leeds through and through, and he was a great servant to the club. And then Click, yeah, unfortunately, absolutely love Click, but yeah, he's up against two tough opponents there, so Click gets sold.
I agree with you, Dan. I do think Click gets sold. Pablo starts. That's clear and obvious. Right, I do apologise for that little technical error at the end. If anyone heard that or not, we will leave that there. I don't know if I mentioned this, but we are proudly sponsored by PrizePot. They are running a competition at the moment where you can get a Lucas Radeby signed shirt for just $1.99. Go on their website, check them out, give them some love on socials as well, as they are kindly sponsoring us. Swifty, Craig, Dan, thank you for joining. It has been a pleasure today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Cheers, chaps.
You missed Becky or Bamford and Beckford?
Yes, I did.
That's a good one as well.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, guys. So I'm going to have to leave that one, I'm afraid.
I'm selling Bamford anyway.
We'll leave that there, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
See you later.